Welcome to Emotionally Balanced with Dido, where we make emotional regulation easy and accessible for you and everyone. Join me and my guests for real conversations and practical tools to help you navigate life's ups and downs with confidence, calm, and clarity. Welcome to Emotionally Balanced with Dido Bala. I'm your host Dido, and today's guest is my man Jahmaal. Jahmaal is a wealth of knowledge and resources. He's an educator, an entrepreneur, and also a healer. He's someone who was born in Jamaica, has lived in Germany, spent 5 years in India studying with monks, and he has come back and has helped so many people and continues to share tools that anybody can use to be more emotionally balanced. The cool thing with this conversation with Jahmaal is that not only do we talk about specific tools you can use, such as visualization, and he redefines yoga for me. I mean, I had never thought about yoga this way. He does a beautiful job to actually explain what yoga is. Talks about the importance of checking in with yourself. But what I love the most about this is that he and I get quite vulnerable about the fact that even though he and I are healers, teachers, givers, helpers, it does not mean that we're always okay. It doesn't mean that we always know what to do. In fact, we struggle a lot. And often when we struggle, we either don't know who to reach out to or we haven't learned how to reach out to other people, even though we're always the ones that others reach out to. So it was a beautiful conversation. I know you're all going to love it. I can't wait for you to listen to the whole thing. Check it out. Let's do this. Enjoy the show. All right, we are officially live. Jahmaal, my brother, I am so grateful you're here. I believe we met. I know it's before COVID. I was doing some work at an elementary school teaching mindfulness to teachers, and my good friend Deb told me, "You got to meet this guy. He's like a magician who comes with this sound instrument, and when he plays this sound instrument, the kids are like hypnotized." And I was like, "I don't know who this is, but I got to meet that guy." And then I'm sure you have it somewhere. um, sure enough, I witnessed. Oh, there we go. The sound. It's always a sound instrument. Sure enough, we met,
Yeah,
and I've got to see you in action, and I'm just so grateful that you exist and do the work that you do. But more importantly, for this context, thank you for saying yes to my invitation.
thank you. It's an honor. I appreciate you having me on. I was looking at all the other podcasts you did. I'm like, man, is there anything I can add? So many
Eh,
great things have been shared, have been said already. So much great advice.
Oh yeah, there's so much that you can add. The answer is you are you uniquely. So let's dive into it. First thing first, right? So your background. If I'm not wrong, you were born in Jamaica, correct?
That's correct.
You obviously live in the US now. We're both in Florida, but you have also lived in Europe.
My father lives in Europe, so I used to spend summers there. Yeah, I spent a good amount of time,
Where?
probably
Where in Europe?
cumulative in Germany. He's in Germany. So I probably
Okay.
spent a total of, man, somewhere between a year and two total in Germany in like 1 2 month chunks.
Wow. And you
Yeah.
also have been to Asia.
I lived in India for 5 years, and that's
You
where I learned a
lived.
lot.
You lived in
Yes,
India. Okay.
yes.
So I mean, you of course you're all gonna have new things to say. So this is so my first question is the following, right? Just thinking about healing and mindfulness and emotion regulation, because this podcast is all about how do we teach people how to use very simple tools that we all have access to remain emotionally balanced. When you think about that topic in all those contexts, born in Jamaica, having spent time in Germany, living in the US, and having spent time in India, I wonder what the meaning of healing, being emotionally balanced or regulated, practicing mindfulness and self care. I wonder what the meaning of those things implies, depending on where you find yourself. Because I know, being from Cameroon, West Africa, uh, it has a completely different meaning. There's the very idea of even thinking about your mental health was not something I ever heard about growing up. In fact, it's almost like the motto was, if you're stressed and anxious, it means you're not busy enough or your life is too good. Like if you have time to
Yeah,
think about your problems, it means
yeah.
that you're not busy enough. And when it comes time to trying to solve those emotional problems, there was no real outlet. So even the word mindfulness or talking about healing in this context, these are things that I would have never discussed with anybody growing up in Cameroon. For me now, things are changing a little bit, but I know that even as I go back now and think about how we can stay emotionally balanced there versus in the US is very different. And if I add one layer, I spent some time doing some work in Romania, and then I did some work with at a French school, a French, I think it was a lycée, high school, and just talking to those teachers about wanting to teach mindfulness to students, the response was very culturally different. They did not understand how American teachers view education as a thing that could make sense with mindfulness, because to them, teaching as a teacher is I teach my subject and I go home. So I say all that to say that the context matters. So, as somebody with such a rich background, what can you tell us about this topic of healing, mindfulness, being emotionally balanced, given all those different contexts that you're familiar with?
I feel there's so much there. There's so much that that is a part of our environment, and then there's certain things, certain truths that are universal. But so first off, I'll say, like, yeah, Jamaica is the same way. Like, mental health is not has not been a thing. Nowadays, things are the world is opening up to the concept of self care and again mindfulness, being more present, all that stuff. But yeah, from Jamaica, if someone's not doing well, then it's just like you got to tough as a man, especially, you just got to tough it out. And or you see someone on in the streets, and it's just like, oh, he's gone mad, and on the extreme sense, and it's just like, yep, he's a madman. Like, and there's no help, there's no in between, you know. You just got to tough it out. So it's been, yeah, it's hard. Even like I heard your podcast with Abdul, and you're talking about like telling people I love you. Like, I don't think I've ever heard those words from my father, and it's just like a cultural thing. Um, and so trying to adapt and shift those patterns, it's work. But yeah, other places in the world, yeah, the world's opening up. Um, Germany's also Germany's also a place where people are typically closed off. Even in America, like, we're in the circle. I think we see a lot of the things that people are doing, but people are very avoidant of their emotions. That's why people, I see people go to bars and hang out all day. People um, try to find all kinds of distractions. I do a good amount of work in a rehab center, and people go there for drugs and alcohol, but also just depression or overall wellness, because the real addiction is the mindset, the thought process that we're either programmed into, that we've adopted since childhood, and then you have childhood traumas and all that stuff that comes up as a part of the conversation. And there's environmental factors, society. You have to fit in with how society's moving. Like, Germany is a very closed off place, in America too. People, you don't have deep conversations with random passerbys. When you say, how are you? People say, oh, good. People don't even hear the question, how are you? I don't know if you've noticed this. You say, how are you? And it's more of like a greeting. It's not even a question. No one waits for the answer. Have you
Oh yeah,
ever
hundred
noticed
percent,
that?
hundred
Because I
percent. It's
pause. I'm like, how are you? I pause for people, and people just kind of go by.
yeah, it's a setup because the question really means I am doing the obligatory performative thing that we all do. And your job is to do your part, which is to say, I'm good, and we move on. So the second somebody gives an answer other than that, the person who asks, how are you, is actually confused. They don't know what to do. So I've seen people ask, how are you doing? And the second you inhale, as if you're about to give a deep answer. Like the look of shock and and fear in their face is hilarious, because they're like, "Oh, I didn't mean it like that, dude. I really would not know what to do with your actual answer." So I'm
Yeah,
with you. There's this idea that we ask people how they're doing, but we're not really trying to find out how they're doing.
yeah. No one's waiting for the answer. So
And
yeah,
and
it's
so
interesting.
yeah, tell me
Sorry.
more about that too. It's been right, given that background, all the things that those things that you've noticed. How have you come to become the person that you are today, who is in tune with your emotions, who cares about trying to help others, despite living in places, including in the US, where it's not exactly encouraged, and especially as a man too?
That's a tough one. I feel like it's innate in me. I feel like I'm just a natural person that cares. Natural, giver. I'm naturally not selfish. I care about the whole experience, not just my experience. And ultimately, I think we're all connected. But I've been practicing yoga for forever, pretty much since I was 6, 7 years old, and practicing things like meditation. So it's over 25 years of practicing breathing, and some of these things at this point are literally second nature to me. And even then, I still have to do the work. I still have to remind myself of come back to the basics sometimes, for just being still, being present. But I think moving around helps shape that a lot. Having to always every year or two having to make new friends and learning. I guess that's kind of a learned empathy in a way, to read people, see how people respond, where you can fit in, and yeah, I was trying to explain, like in school growing up, like I was never like the most popular one. Um, I wasn't like alone in a corner either though. But so I just kind of adapted. I made friends and friend groups, and I just kind of that's kind of a learned skill, just being able to meet new people and to make connections. And I don't know, it's been important to me to make deep connections. I don't like small talk. I don't want to sit around and watch TV. I want to get to know you and know, what makes you happy. What do you like to do? Not just like hobbies and stuff, but what drives you in life. What has meaning for you? And I've been like that. Those are the things that really interest me. And that's when you have really interesting, meaningful conversations, and you build deeper connections and relationships with people. So that's been a huge one. And obviously, living in India, India is kind of, could you say it's the root of it all? I feel like yoga comes first for me, and everything I do, I'm trying to teach yoga. So being able to live in India and experience yoga on a deeper level, and live in ashrams and travel and meet ascetics, like traveling monks that just kind of wander, and they're holy men, and they have a lot of wisdom to share. So that's definitely a huge part of how I got here now. You know about me and sound therapy. So when I lived in India, I started a company for selling singing bowls. Let's see, can I pull this out? So these wonderful instruments here, and I was traveling around the world, and this is when I met you actually at the school. I did that one thing at the school. I think I did another event, and I'm traveling all around the world. I'm going literally everywhere. Europe, Asia, China, uh, California, and then I realized the need we have for mindfulness in my own community and just right here at home. Here's the ball. So I realized how important it is to slow down, and sound kind of does it automatically. It makes your brain slow down from beta to alpha, from fight or flight to the relaxation response.
Okay,
And
this is a lot. I wanna get into a lot of those things. This is really good, right? Because let's get practical. Because here's the deal, right? A lot of people who aren't in our circle feel like the things we're discussing are unattainable. They're too far from them. People like us don't do things like that. You need to I've heard that so many times. You need to be an expert, or have gone to school for this, or have had a certification, or have been to India. So let's bring this down for folks, right? You have had all this experience. There's somebody listening right now who is not going to go to India, has been intimidated by the idea of practicing yoga or mindfulness, feels like it is not part of who they are. They don't do things like that, and
Mm.
yet they need help to be emotionally balanced. What are some specific tools that you can talk about that can help anybody? And so far, you've talked about the importance of meditation, you talked about yoga, you talked about breathing, you talked about sound. Choose any of those to break it down for someone who does not have any experience in any of this, who just lives life but know they need help, and they're listening to us right now.
Okay. Before I talk about any of those things, I do want to mention that's why I try to use words like mindfulness because and rather than yoga because I say yoga and there's all kinds of preconception. Oh, I'm not flexible. All this and yoga is like 3% about your physical movement. Everything else is about the mind. And so I'm trying to kind of bring about these concepts of yoga, meditation, being still, watching your feelings, and using other labels that don't have as much maybe stigma behind them. But before the tools of using breath or meditation, the first tool that I say to people, and anyone watching this or listening to this can do this right now, is pause and check in with yourself. And when I say that, I mean think of one word that describes how you feel right now. How do you feel? Again, how are you? And take a note of that word. Take a mental note, and you can share it if you want. You can share it with others. If you do I do a group check-in, so we share sometimes. If we have a small enough group, we can share with everyone. But it's for yourself. If you have a word that describes how you feel, and you don't like that feeling, then you have a choice. Once you pause, then you can recognize what's happening, and then you have a choice. You can choose to maintain that feeling. You can keep doing whatever you're doing without any changes, or from there, if you decide, okay, I want to change how I'm feeling. I'm not really. This isn't helping me right now. That's another thing. I feel like every emotion serves a purpose. So even we might get into some of the darker sides of emotion, like depression and stuff like that. But everything serves a purpose. We can't hide or run from these emotions. But we have to recognize, okay, is this serving me right now? And do I want to keep it going? Or you can make a shift from there. So number one thing, just pause and check in with yourself. That's an easy tool. We all have these. These tools are innate. That's the great part. They're innate. It's you don't have to travel to India. You don't have to take a class. You don't have to take a workshop. When you are present, then a lot more becomes clear. And in life, there's so many distractions. We're not given a chance to sit still. Nowadays, when people sit down still, they pull out their phones and are scrolling or they're responding to messages, whatever it is. But we're not encouraged to be still.
Hmm.
That's number one.
Yeah, let's take that one. So this idea of checking in with yourself, and folks sometimes hear that and wonder what does that mean. Well, Jamal just gave you an idea of what that means. It can be as simple as asking yourself, "How am I feeling right now?" And if you are listening or watching, do that with us. Ask yourself the question right this moment, no matter what you're
Do
going
it.
through. Take 1 second. How are you actually feeling right now?
100%.
And acknowledging that is key because unfortunately a lot of us are trained intentionally and subconsciously to escape our actual life and our actual reality. What that means is that it's everything around you distracting you, putting you away from yourself. So this simple check-in is a way to be emotionally balanced because it actually brings you back inside to check in before you can choose to do anything about it. But go ahead, please, Jamal.
Keep it short, one word if possible, because your brain then goes down a rabbit hole and will go into stories. When you start talking to people, you hear the stories the narratives that they create in their mind, like, oh, I'm anxious, I live with anxiety. They make it a part of their personality. And it's like, it's not a part of you. You're feeling that right now. That's okay. But it's not like a diagnosis. And a lot of people make it are diagnosed and it becomes a part of their personality and they become attached to it. They identify with it as opposed to just letting it be and recognizing it and letting it pass or taking the action to change it. and empowering yourself to change it by not being attached to it. So yeah, think just one word, or just keep it really short.
One word, to keep it short. Why is this so difficult? Because the way we're talking about this makes it seem like all you gotta do is slow down and ask yourself, how am I doing? And then you're good. So somebody is listening like, yeah, thank you guys. But I've been trying. So I'm just curious from your perspective, why do you think this is so difficult?
It's not comfortable for one. It's not comfortable, um, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Sometimes we subconsciously feel like these feelings are serving us in some kind of way. It could be we don't want to address it. We don't want to change our actions. Um, but I also think the brain, it's uncomfortable for your brain to be still, for your mind to slow down, and it's always seeking stimulation. Your mind is seeking stimulation. That's just what it does. It seeks the input, but it's like a computer. It's like a processor. If we don't really need to process any information, then we should give it a rest. Let it cool down. So I think so. Even if you're deprived of all external inputs, your brain will start to create inputs of its own. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Even if you go in a sensory deprivation chamber, people will start with no music, again, no external inputs, minimal external inputs. Your brain will create its own thoughts. It'll hallucinate its own sounds, images, even, and that's just what the brain does.
That's
But
so funny.
we have to know, and that's the whole point of yoga. It's taming the mind, really. That's it.
Taming the mind is the
Taming the
point
mind.
of yoga. Can you, what is yoga? Right? Because I gotta tell you, man, like when I hear yoga, it's not just me. I have one very specific picture that comes in mind. Um, it is not exact. It is one. So okay, just so you know, Jahmaal is like making all sorts of like twisting his arms in a way that looks very yoga y right now. Just so you
Postures,
know,
different
he's doing things
positions, going
that
upside
I
down.
couldn't do. I can't do that, right? So just look at my body. If I try to move my hands down, it is literally impossible. So when I hear that, I'm like, look, folks, see what. So what Jamal is doing right now is actually this is hilarious because that is the literal image. When I think yoga, that's why I've taken yoga classes. I've gone to yoga classes, and I enjoy it because it's very mindful. My favorite part is at the end when you're gonna lay down on your back and everything is quiet and you breathe. But a lot of people still hear yoga and envision somebody twisting their arms like Jamal just did, and they're not trying to do that. So, and I'm not trying to do that. So tell us, for those of us who are maybe can't do that or don't really want to do that kind of twisty stuff, what is yoga and why is it helpful to stay emotionally balanced?
Like I said, it's taming the mind. That is the goal of yoga. So when we practice the asanas, are what they is the Sanskrit for postures. So the yoga postures, all the different poses, the simple stuff like a forward bend, or crazy stuff like twisting your body in all kinds of ways, or going upside down, standing on your head. All that stuff is maybe 3%, if even that number, of all of yoga. And the whole point of the postures is, one, to strengthen your body to sit longer in meditation. Because if you're
Mm.
not strong, if your back is not strong, especially, it's going to be very uncomfortable to sit still, to be sitting in meditation for extended periods of time. People after 20, 30 minutes, most people are like they get back pain, leg pain, knee pain. And yeah, sitting still takes muscle. That's part of it, and it's
Okay, hold on,
harder.
hold on. I need to make sure I get this. I've never heard this in my
Yeah,
life. So what I just understood from what you're saying is that the goal really is most of us know that sitting still and practicing presence and checking in with yourself in all the ways possible through breath or through sound or whatever, that's really good for your emotional health. We know that. What you're telling me is that really the point of yoga is to train your body and strengthen your body so that you can do this practice that almost all of us know that is good for your emotional health. So that the point is to get your body and perhaps your mind to ready to sit and check in with yourself. Is that what I'm hearing?
100%. And even, yeah, 100%. And like what you just said, laying down is at the end, the relaxation is your favorite part. That's the whole point, to get to the stillness. When you're still, that's when you really take in all the benefits from the movement itself. Even on a physical level, when you're still, that's when your muscles, your muscles rebuild and you right to muscle memory, and your body detoxifies and heals and regenerates on a cellular level. That
Bro, you
happens when
just
you're
blew my
still.
mind. You just blew my mind. I had never thought of it this way. And that shifts things for me because now I understand the purpose because I thought the goal was to kind of look cool and twisty by having your feet up or or doing a bridge or doing the twisties. I don't even know what a twisty is. I'm just like making some
Yeah,
words up,
it's
describing
all
things
fun
I
and
don't see.
games.
Yeah, whoa, but this is okay, wow. So the goal is to get your body ready to get to that stillness because it is during the stillness that you actually get to get the benefits. And I can connect this to working out, right? You work out, but we all know that if you work out but you don't rest and you don't recover, then you will not see the benefits in the same way. So, in that sense, the goal is to do the work so that you can get to rest and allow your body to do what it needs to do. And I'm now hearing and learning from you that it's the same thing for yoga. Mind blown.
Definitely. And I mean, the secondary goal, or it's not really a goal, but part of the process is using your body as a point of focus. So when you move your body in uncomfortable positions, that's kind of like a metaphor for life. You go into these positions that can be uncomfortable, and you learn to be still and learn to be comfortable in them. And also, it's like it's hard for people to for beginners, beginners usually need more physical movement because it's hard for someone to say, all right, sit down, close your eyes, and clear your mind. Like that doesn't happen, you know.
No.
So we use the body as a point of focus, as a point of to give the body, sorry, to give the mind something to focus on, a path to follow, so to speak. So you give the mind a path to follow, so a specific point of focus, and that changes, every couple minutes or a few seconds, however fast you're moving. But it's giving your mind a point of focus, and that itself is a meditation. Having Does that make
Wow.
sense?
So, yes, that makes a lot of sense. I'm going to connect that to things that I have been practicing myself, right? I have always thought that one of the most important things that we all have and should use as tools to stay emotionally balanced is to learn to lean into our senses, and the sense of touch, for example, just rubbing my fingers or holding a pen and trying to kind of get to the texture, right? Not just holding it like in a just automatic way, not thinking about it, but being actually present. Sometimes I'm having a difficult and uncomfortable conversation with someone and I'm getting emotionally dysregulated. And what I start to do if I'm holding a pen, for example, like nobody knows, I start to bring my attention to the texture of the pen with my finger. And the more I do that, the more, to use your language, the more I'm giving my mind a point of focus, a path to follow. So my mind then kind of starts to think about the texture, and I'm still present, but it slowly shifts my emotional state from being dysregulated to being a little more present and less dysregulated. So I do that with sound. I love to sometimes focus on the different sounds around me. Sometimes you don't even think about the sounds that quote unquote disappear because we are used to them, such as the AC in your house or the fan, things that are there, but you don't hear them because we're used to them. They have blended into the decor
You,
of our existence.
you don't realize how loud it is until it stops.
Yes, yes, exactly. And then you become uncomfortable. Like, what happened to that noise? So I use my senses to give the mind a point of focus, like you
Yeah,
just
that's
said. So
huge.
everybody who's listening, please take notes. This is huge. Thanks so much, man. This is an amazing tip. I never thought
Yeah,
about it this way.
and that's what it comes down to. What you said, being present, and it's funny because it's like, hey, have you ever picked that pen up before?
Yeah.
You probably picked it up a few times, right?
Yeah.
But why is it that in that moment you realize maybe you'll feel something you never felt before, or whatever the perception is, it's I say everything's a portal. Everything's a portal. It can bring you to a whole new world because the way our brain works, like I can look at this pen and I just see it, or I can focus in on it and be present with it. Can do it with any object, any person. But when you're truly present, you have to think that your brain is always trying to be efficient. And this ties in with the last tool, which I wanted to talk about, but I'll mention it now. It's visualization.
Mm.
But your brain doesn't, first of all, your brain doesn't know the difference between what's real or made up, what's visualized. But your brain is always trying to fill in the gaps. So if I see this pen, I like to use a flower as an example because a flower has a lot of details. But you can look at a flower and you know how it looks. You know how a rose looks, or any you can name a flower, but you know how it looks. And your brain, the more you see something, the more your brain will fill in the gaps and try to process that image faster. And so what happens is we kind of take shortcuts. So your brain starts when you perceive something, your brain or your nervous system basically has to go from you have input to what we our perception. So the neurons might fire A, B, C, D. So we go from A to D, right? So the more you look at it, it might find a shortcut. It eventually goes A, B, D, and then eventually just goes A, D, and we
Mm-hmm.
miss all the in between just because your brain, your body is very intelligent and it tries to be efficient. So it tries to process those things faster. And so when we slow down and then we get truly present, you have to realize even if you've seen the image before, those are still new light waves, new light entering your nervous system. So it's still a whole new experience.
I love it. I love it. And that's why when I was teaching, I taught high school. I found there's this visible thinking routine that I used to love that was called See, Think, Wonder. And all it was I would find every single day to start my class. I would go on a National Geographic website and I have these pictures, like just amazing pictures. And I would choose one every single day and put it there for the students, and they would all come for the first 10 minutes. I would play some soft music in the background, instrumental, and all they had to do is write down what they see, when it makes them think, and when it makes them wonder. And I have done that with things that I have been in my office or in the classroom for days or weeks or years. And when you do the see, think, wonder with that thing, you're like, I never noticed this. Like, how is it that this
Mhm.
thing has been here? So what you're saying is, like, that slow down is a way to regulate your emotions and stay in balance. Because remember this, folks who are listening, it's a good thing that your brain makes shortcuts. You could not possibly process life if you had to actually literally take in everything. I mean,
We'd all
you
go
would
crazy.
you would lose your mind like today. So it's like
Yeah,
actually an evolutionary kind of hack that our brains are able to be like AD. That's what I'm sure you've all seen some of those the memes on social media where maybe there's a paragraph written with like misspelled words or like missing letters,
yes,
but you can still read the whole thing because
yes,
you're not really like looking at every single letter. Your predicting brain is seeing a few letters and just making the shortcut to, oh, this is what this means. And that's how we live life. So that's
yeah,
good. In order to be efficient, your brain needs to work that way. Now the problem is, especially given what the world looks like today, everything is so fast that we don't know how to slow down anymore. So all
yeah.
these practices to stay emotionally balanced are designed for you to go back into how your brain takes in the world and slow it down a little bit so you can see things better, so you can feel things better, so you can be present
Be
better.
present.
And that's how you remain emotionally balanced with tools that you were born with.
That's it. We have to be present, and then we can really appreciate every experience, every because even if you've seen it or picked it up, felt it, you heard it 1,000 times, a million times, it's still a new experience, and we kind of we lose appreciation for that. So when
I
we get
love
back to the
that.
present, a lot of things become clear on their own.
Yeah. Oh, I like that a lot. I like that a lot. So when you come back to the present, a lot of things become clearer on their own. I want to dig a little deeper there because the goal of all these practices are not for you to go to somebody else to tell you what to do with your life. The goal is to remember that all the answers that you're looking for are within you, right? And
100%.
the current version of yourself might struggle to access those answers. And all these practices are just designed to give you the power to come back to yourself. Once you slow things down, then the version of yourself that is present can see the problem and have a better solution. So this is kind of cool to think about, right? So you are the answer. It's just that the version of yourself that has the answers is one that you are going to get to by slowing down, by being more present, by practicing mindfulness and all these tools. Because if you think about the last time you got very angry with someone, you did or said something that you later regretted, all that means is that the version of yourself that was angry did not have access to the answers that you have, because you're the same person who the next day thought to yourself, why did I say that? Why did I do that? So it's still you. So you have the answers. It's just that that version
Yeah.
of you was fast, emotionally triggered, reactive, amygdala fight, flight, freeze, perceiving every single threat as if it was a life-threatening danger, even if it wasn't, right? And the version of yourself that feels like, oh, why did I do that? Is one that has slowed down a little bit. So all we're talking about here is how can you recognize when your nervous system is beginning to accelerate, and how can you slow it down on demand, as you please, when you want, so you can view things a little clearer. That's what the goal is here. It's a forever journey. You're never quite done, but that's what the goal is. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, definitely that's everything you just said is I agree with 100%. Um, yeah, that brings me to the next thing is actually slowing it down. But I just want to say you don't have to have a degree in psychology or be a neuroscientist or a behavioral psychologist or something. You know, it's all when you slow down, that everything becomes clear. You know if that emotion that you just expressed is really serving you or not, and however you want to word that, whatever labels you want to use, whatever, however however you speak. You know, like I said, you don't have to be a doctor or a neuroscientist or a behavioral psychologist. It just becomes clear. You know if what you did is helps you or others or not, and you know if it feels good or not. You know, it's that simple. You know if it you know what feels right and what doesn't feel right within you. You know, I can't tell you what's right and wrong. You feel that. Um,
I love
but
that. I love that. You
yeah,
know the answers. It's like you know when you do something and it's not okay, even with your own self. Like no matter how much you
yeah,
pretend outside, you
yeah,
know inside when you are not aligned with the person you want to be. You know it.
yeah. You can't run from yourself.
You can't. So I love all those tools, right? So we've talked about the importance of slow checking in with yourself, taking the moment to actually check in.
That's
But make
it.
sure when you check in to ask yourself, "How am I doing?" You answer in a very short and concise way, either with one word or something shorter, because the more you start to tell a full story, the more you're going to run away from how you're actually feeling. And once you know how you're feeling, you can choose to do something about it. We talked about the actual meaning of yoga. This is unbelievable, right? You are trying to tame the mind, but really, all those physical positions that you see everywhere, they are designed to prepare your body to stay still and sit still so that you can check in with yourself and do that work of being present with no judgment. Then we talked about visualization and being present in a way where something that you see every single day can become something new. And I'm holding a pen right now, right? So something as trivial as a pen that you've held so many times can become something new if you are present and if you're practicing mindfulness and using the body to give your mind a path to follow is how Jamal described this practice of yoga. And what I want to do now is transition into something that I've been thinking about a lot. And you and I have exchanged about this. Somebody once told me that people who work in finance are terrible with it, with personal finance. And I was like, what are you talking about? They're like, I'm telling you, like, even like some doctors are like awful with their own personal health. And I've looked into that a little bit. There seems to be some truth to the fact that people who are quote unquote experts in the field tend to have a record of being awful at actually implementing those things in real life. So my question to you and for you and I to dive into for a little bit is that true for healers? Is that true for folks who practice mindfulness? Is that true for folks who teach others how to be well? Is it true that those of us, I put myself in that category, who have made a lifestyle, a career out of helping other people take care of their mental health, is it true that we are not that great at taking our own mental health into account?
Very simply, I would say yes, even probably more so true. I mean, it's an old saying, I guess, for everyone that like the shoemaker wears tattered shoes. You know, it applies to all. I guess it would apply to all fields, all areas of expertise, um, except maybe cooks. I think people who like cooking at home too, or who work professionally. Anyway, some people. Anyway, yes, for us it applies even more so, I would think, because we're natural carers. At least I am. I would say the same about you. You naturally are focused on other people, so our energy is focused outwardly, and it's becomes even easier for us to forget about ourselves, and that might be part of the that might be why we're in the work itself, um, because it helps us to utilize the tools. Like when you're teaching it, you're reminding yourself as well. You're learning as well. You're, you know, coming back to those basics. Um, so I think, yeah, that's definitely like I know I've gone through lots of depressions. I've sent you some funny memes
Yeah.
about that. You know, it's like, yeah, someone, we're there for others who need help, but then we don't want to ask, or maybe we have, we're human. We all feel the same emotions. We might feel, maybe we feel embarrassed to ask. It's like I've always been the person that I actually haven't really looked into it that deep for myself. Like I don't think it's embarrassment, but it's like you feel like people always come to you for help, so it doesn't feel right going to others to say you need help with, you want to talk, or whatever's going, there's something going on, because you're so used to other people coming to you. So it just doesn't even register. It doesn't feel right. It feels like, or maybe feels like, okay, now, like you're always supposed to having high expectations of yourself. Like you're the one that has the tools. So, you can't ask anyone else for help or say, hey, can we talk? I've been going through something. It's almost like, not living up to your own expectations. Like you're supposed to be the one. You're supposed to have it all together all the time. I've I've had someone tell me, "Oh, you practice mindfulness, aren't you supposed to be nice to everyone all the time?" I'm like, no, that's not quite how mindfulness and emotions work. uh,
It reminds me of I don't know who I was talking to. Oh, a good friend of mine I used to work with. We had these t-shirts, like they were like branded t-shirts of like the mindful company we're working for, and uh, but we made sure when we traveled together, we made sure that we were not wearing those t-shirts to the airport, because I don't need anybody at the airport wondering why I'm not the perfection, the kindness in embodied kindness all the time. It's like no, I just spent 2 days working, pouring into other people. So when I get to the airport, if I get on, I sit down and somebody reclines their seat right away, that's going to piss me off and trigger me. So I don't need them see, I don't, I don't need them wondering why I'm not the definition of mindfulness all the time.
yeah,
I'm a human
yeah,
being.
yeah, and it's like we're allowed to express normal human emotions. You don't have to, we have to honor ourselves, and that also includes not letting people, invade it, and it might be your personal space or take advantage of you, and that doesn't always look nice. Going through it I've been through it so many, the amount of times I've gone through it, and I've probably even had probably more than two, three times. I've had the security call police, and mostly because of their incompetence. Because like I get through fine, but it's like there's this back and forth. It's like, no, I'm allowed to have everything that I have, or this is just an instrument. Like leave me alone. You know, I've gone
Wow.
through guys at security before. So yeah, I know what you're talking about, and I guess there's that aspect as well because people can be manipulative or use it as like a weapon against you. Like, oh, you're doing mindfulness. Shouldn't you believe in this or be acting like this? You know, and it's like, no, I get to be angry. I get to be upset. I'm a human too. Um, so
So,
there's that
so
aspect. So it's tough.
tell, tell me, so first of all, um, what do you do now? Where do you go? Who do you reach out to? What tools do you access? How do you deal with the fact that you're not okay yourself? Like, what do you do if and when that happens as a healer yourself?
For me personally,
Hmm.
like if I'm guilty of this where I've just had to rough it through. I've gone through terrible depression in the last year, and I haven't reached out to people. I haven't really felt comfortable. I haven't felt like myself. But the things that keep me going is breathing, definitely breathing and yoga, and just feeling. Uh, I guess the physical movement helps to feel your body, helps to be present in that sense. I'm fortunate enough where I have some things here. Hold on, like I'm at my desk, so I have a little box here. It has a couple quotes. That's not what I want to show. Can you see this? Let's show up. It says,
Yeah.
the gratification comes in the doing, not the results. And so I have
Hmm.
little quotes, but even better than the quotes, I wrote these down myself. So I have little light spray. I have little note cards here,
Yeah, I can
and they
see.
just have they're just little note cards with about 3 to 5 bullets,
Hmm.
and they have reminders for myself. So that's a it's definitely helped keep me going.
Hmm.
So even if I forget, like I'm in a circle where everyone I know basically is, some professional in the behavioral health space in some way. Even I'm fortunate that I can remind myself, and I don't reach out to them. I'm fortunate that I can remind myself I have these already written down, but little affirmations. I'm smart, I'm healthy, I'm growing, I'm beautiful, I'm efficient, I'm a problem solver, I'm strong. So they all have little reminders that helps me. So affirmations are one thing. Um, Affirmations on their own, I've never been a big fan of, but that ties in with visualization. I didn't get to talk about visualization too much, but basically, there's your brain doesn't know the difference when you make something up, when you visualize, when you picture something in your head. If you picture, you don't even have to picture anything. You can watch a movie. You can watch a scary movie or watch, Jurassic Park when the dinosaur jumps out. Your heart
Yeah.
rate actually goes up. It's a real experience to your nervous system. It's 100% real experience. And yeah, that. It's the stuff you teach.
Yeah.
So uh, using positive visualization to condition our body to change our state. That's the tool. So after you check in and you realize I don't like how I'm feeling, then you use visualization and you can shift that. And that's what helped me make it through the day.
Wow. And sometimes that's all it is, right? I just kind of reframed recently the idea of these New Year's resolutions into a day's resolution. As long as I can do it today, that's all I am looking for. And if I can do it today, then I get to wake up tomorrow and try to do it again. So, and that goes in the sense of whether it be a resolution about wanting to be healthier or exercising or saving money, but it goes also towards not feeling okay and reminding yourself that I am worthy today, right? Is I am a big fan these days of this idea, this concept that we should all remind to ourselves and to each other that every human being has capacity for good within them. And I like to emphasize that because we are not always the best versions of ourselves. We don't always feel like we're good. And the same way, when the brain takes the shortcuts and everything is fast, there's a version of you that can slow things down. When you are in that pit and feeling like you are the bad version of yourself, it's so key to have a way to remind to yourself that there is good within you. And the version of you that wrote those quotes knew that. So it's also trusting that version of yourself and going back. Oh, it's a message. If you want to be a little trippy, it's a message from a different version of you that was left for the version of you that was going to need it. I love that.
A message. I wrote myself a whole book, Transformational
Ah,
Mindfulness.
go get it.
Sometimes I think,
Transformation Mindfulness. I have the book. Yes, it's on Amazon. Transformation Mindfulness. Get it on Amazon, y'all. This, please
yeah,
go get it. You are going to be very grateful that you purchased that book because it gives you tools to practice everything we've talked about on this episode.
yeah. I've talked about in the book. I talk about pretty much everything we're talking about here, and it's in the book itself. Sometimes I'm like, did I just write this for myself as a reminder to myself, to the me in the future?
Hmm. And
For
maybe
sure.
you
But
did.
yeah,
It's this is I want to thank you for showing up. Thank you for being who you are. Like I mentioned when I opened up, I was so grateful to see a man, a black man, in the field of healing people and teaching how to be present and how to take care of oneself when I first met you. And I think in addition to sharing all the tools that you shared, and people who are listening and who are watching are going to take notes and use those. I want to honor you for being brave, vulnerable, and courageous enough to admit that you're not always okay. Because I can relate. I'm just like you because this is my job, right? And you add to that the fact that, right, I'm from an African family. I'm the oldest son, right? That means a lot.
it's
And
a lot
even
of
in my,
pressure. It's a
there's a
lot of
lot of
pressure on you.
pressure at all the levels. And then I went and became a mindfulness teacher. It's like, oh, there we go. I'm the one who teaches people how to feel better about themselves. Now I'm teaching positive psychology. Wow, it's always positive. And now my current job, I lead an organization that I love called Kindness Matters 365. So I must be kind every single day of the year, right? So it's so everything is always great, but the truth is, it's not. Everything is not always great. I've had a rough past couple of days, like I mean, like rough myself, and it helps to talk to someone like you who understands that the pressures of being the one to provide for others emotionally, physically, financially, etc. doesn't take away from the fact that you are a human being as well, and you also feel scared sometimes. You also feel sad sometimes. You also feel lonely and weak sometimes. And I just want you to know that you're not alone in feeling that way. I feel that with you, and I'm here for you. Right? These are the memes that you were sending, or a quick phone call without having to say much. I'm here because we're all we got. Right? I understand what you're going through, and I also want to tell you. You said earlier that your father, for example, had never told you I love you. Same with me. These are things that I discovered later in my life. And for me, it was full circle because of the career that I chose. It became so important for me to express emotions, but I was struggling to express it to my family from back home. It took me going back to my dad as he was dying for me to literally tell him I love you in that moment, and that was so powerful. So I want to tell you I love you, my brother, and I'm grateful that you exist, that you're pushing through, and I'm also grateful that when you go through it, you're able to sit with the fact that it's okay to go through it, even if it comes off as if you aren't the embodiment of all the things that you teach. And for that, I'm just grateful for you.
Thank you, man. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for having me on. And yeah, it's so powerful. And to add on to what you said, anyone that's listening, like we don't have to have all the answers today, things might feel scary or uncomfortable, but it's okay, make it through and things will become clear. And that's actually that's one of the benefits of depression. That's what I've tried to look at it from that point, shift my whole perspective and say, all right, like I need this. This is where I'm supposed to be at in life. Just like I might need to be angry at the airport, otherwise I'm gonna miss my plane. I need to be, push through. Um, so depression forces you to slow down. It forces your whole body to slow down and go a little bit deeper and reflect because maybe we haven't been paying as much attention as we should have. So that's just forcing us to do it. So even refraining and recognizing the purpose of our emotions can be helpful. But yeah, we don't have to figure it out all right now, you know?
Let's end with that. We don't have to figure it all out right now because we are good just as we are today. And with that, my friends, thanks for tuning in. It's been an amazing ride to have Jamal on, and go get the book Transformational Mindfulness. It's everywhere you get books. It's an amazing book. I have it myself, and I am looking forward to hearing thoughts, comments, questions from anyone. And once again, Jamal, I'm grateful for you, and I can't wait for us to chat some more because I keep saying this to everyone I talk to. We have covered so much, but there's so much more to cover. But until then, have the best luck, my friend. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Be well.
Thank you so much for listening to Emotionally Balanced with Dido Bala. I really hope you learned something useful and practical today. You learned at least one tool that you can use in your life to remain more emotionally balanced. Please remember that we are dropping these every single week. So share them with your friends, with your family, and everybody that you know. Also, check us out on Instagram at Balance with Bala. We are dropping the some clips from the episodes there and also some additional content. And more importantly, please remember to leave a review if you get a chance. Once again, thanks for tuning in. Stay emotionally balanced. Bye.